It took a while, but it finally happened. Discovery is now in charge of Warner, all of Warner Brothers. And, well, an overhaul is coming, just like I told you guys. And Twitter is wrong if they think the Snyderverse is gone. More right after this. What is happening, Internet? K-Wing here. It's been a while, but I had some personal stuff happen, and, well, usually when personal things happen, I don't have time to work. So that's exactly what happened with me, and all the big news came out, and I was unable to report it, which is always the case. It's something that my friends always joke around with me, that when the really big stuff happens, K-Wing is never able to talk about it because we'll say stuff hit the fan for me, and I had to, do priorities. My cat almost died. I'm behind in my taxes, like, filing for them, and some other stuff. Plus, we had some client stuff that we had to work with, and, it just didn't really add up. But anyway, enough of that stuff. You want to know about all the Discovery stuff. Discovery is now in charge of everything. CNN and Warner Brothers, Warner Animation, Warner Brothers Games, DC Comics, DC Entertainment, Cartoon Network, Boomerang, TBS, TNT, Time Warner, technically AT&T, everything. For $43 billion. They own everything. And David is now the figurehead that has all the power to do whatever he wants. And some people want to think that he's going to march to the same beat of Warner Media's drum. But what they don't understand is Toby Emmerich, his contract is over in the fall. I don't think it's going to be extended. And Walter Hamada only has a one-year contract until 2023. And I also don't believe that's going to be extended. When David took over Discovery about, I think it was 10 years ago, he bided his time, he watched how the company was run, and then he replaced everybody when he came in as the CEO. It took some time, but he put in all of his people. Right now, you still have some people who are in transition at Warner Media that are going to be around for a while, and they probably will finish their run on the current slate of DC films. But all the other films that are in development are either going to change or be scrapped. I know that one gentleman on Twitter was praising David for talking about Superman and made the misconception that he thought Superman that he is talking about is Black Superman. But anyway, they're like, oh, J.J. Abrams and his partner Quixote finally turned in the Black Superman script. So that's what David is mentioning in this article. It's like, no, you would have to go and watch when he was on Fox Business. But he was very clear 4 months ago that he wants to see traditional Superman Clark Kent back at the forefront of DC films. So what he told Variety is true. He just was very vague, and he's very smart because, it's going to take time to get his people in a position. But he talked about Batman, he talked about Wonder Woman, and the DC Trinity. He knew about what Warner Media wanted to do by having Wonder Woman, Supergirl, and Batgirl as the new DC Trinity, and that's not going to fly, and that's not going to make them money. So that idea is not going to continue. But they're not going to greenlight a Trinity film that won't have Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman in that movie. I guarantee it. So people, DC Comics is also in big trouble now. They're not have shared ideas between all walks of life and all political affiliations, even though they basically witch hunted all the conservatives out, which you can argue that they didn't, but the ones that are still there are very quiet. And I'm not just talking about people that voted for the orange, like a utopia with just one type of, idea. And you saw exactly how that had DC Comics run for the past 3 years to play the same song over and over again in order to get any type of media attention because their books really don't appeal to anybody. New 52, people enjoyed Flashpoint, but everybody with Heroes in Crisis, and then all that other stuff. So DC has been in hot water for years, and now they're on David's radar. Now before, information that I had for Discovery. Discovery's focus was to retool and revitalize the Warner DC Films brand, because that is in trouble. Wanted to do some stuff with WB Animation and put them on the right track. He definitely wanted to reboot or reorganize and restructure 8 years since Arkham Knight. And you had potential of having a Superman game. They had Wet Feet. They never did it. You had the potential of having a Green Lantern game, again, by a very talented Robin game. Didn't go through with it. They had Lego thing with. And as a DC gamer, we have literally been starved. The only reason a lot of these companies in development is because they don't want their studios shut down. That's the honest-to-God truth, is they're trying to show Discovery that, hey, you can't close us because we're working on this Wonder Woman game. We're working on this DC Comics Smash Brothers thing. We have Gotham Knights coming out this year. We have Suicide Squad, and we may even have a Superman game in production. You like Superman, David. So the good thing is, David really wants to have a lot of DC content going, but there is going to have to be an overhaul because the DC Comics brand isn't working. Being in charge of everything, and DC Entertainment having a say thing, which didn't work last time when essentially that was Jeff Johns' job, doing streaming TV studios is, but not the same way that Kevin Feige is both right now, is that David wants to bring in the guy over at Netflix who's working with Zack Snyder. The guy who stole Zack Snyder from Warner Brothers to give him Rebel Moon and whatever other show he wants to work on. That's the rumor that David wants to hire that guy as the head of DC, which then would be basically restoring the Snyderverse, which would cause Twitter to have a stroke because they think that David is going to go the route of the J.J. Abrams Superman, and we know that's not the case. Even the Flash movie is going to get rid of Superman, and then Superman's going to exist like as different versions of Superman and race swaps. You'll have people believe that David is going to go along and be like, well, the revitalization that I'm talking about is, you know, J.J. Abrams Superman. No. If anything, he's probably going to bring where actually both characters are imperative to the story. I mean, that would be fantastic. Nobody wants to get rid of Sasha. She doesn't have the same brand power as Clark Kent Superman. Brand power as his father. And people really don't like Tom Taylor's run of Superboy. Most people Bendis to age up essentially a 10-year-old into an adult with the mind of a by putting him in a relationship, because in his mind he's just a little kid part, and they could rush their next projects, which would be like Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever. But now in the DC films, because his character, at least right now, takes place in the Snyderverse, and he wants Henry Cavill. In his mind, he's always thinking Henry, though, because you have Anna after a week when it was on HBO Max. That's when a lot of these actors became very vague. Walter Hamada's contract is ending in 2023, and I don't think that David is going to renew those contracts. Side characters. One of the things that David talked about in the Variety interview was the fact that that aren't necessarily interconnected, but have really talented like directors and actors like headlining those movies. And that makes sense. I mean, the Joker was a surprise hit. The Harley Quinn character, Margot Robbie, is very popular, but her Harley Quinn movie was a bomb. So when Twitter is talking about how like she's a very important core character, that who knows what they're going to do with her, but they're not misconception. I know that it appealed to like Twitter audiences, but general audiences did not really fall in line with that, and Discovery wasn't really thrilled with that either. So expect things to change in that regard. It's going to come out soon. Black Adam might get a little bit of reshoots, but not that much because the summer is, you know, coming up on us real fast. With Aquaman, because David does not like controversy. He's fired and canceled shows based on controversy. And Warner Media couldn't cancel certain people because, I mean, the actress who plays Mira, she's a woman, and, you know, she's a protected class, so you can't fire her. You could fire Johnny Depp because he's a man, but if you would do something against the actress who plays Mira, then she could turn around and say that she's a victim, even though technically she is the abuser. She is the domestic problem. She's the person who sliced off Johnny Depp's hand and essentially pocketed the judge in Europe. So, I mean, she's a very, very bad, evil lady. But because she's a woman, well, she's kind of protected. So that kind of stuff doesn't really make David a happy guy either, because there's a lot of controversy. You just had another controversial thing happen. The actor who played the Joker yesterday got arrested for something. And I'm not talking about Joaquin Phoenix. I'm talking about the Joker in the Batman Matt Reeves universe was just arrested. So you have all this controversy that's happening that has to have David, you know, in his seat, like kind of shuffling around like, I don't like this stuff because it's not really going to be good for the business. So Amber Heard most likely won't come back for Aquaman 3 now that David's in charge. She'll probably recast her with a fan favorite actress that has good chemistry with Jason Momoa. You know, that would make the most sense. And nobody knows what's really going to happen with Ezra Miller anymore either, because he's surrounded in controversy. However they got the family to, you know, not press charges, that's not really going to change his fate at DC. Like, I would find a way of recasting him if I was David. Like, after the scene where Barry defeats the Black Flash or whatever, or Reverse Flash or whatever it's going to be. Because you're going to have, like, so many different characters appear as different characters anyway. Like, characters who died come back as the same actors, but playing different versions of those characters. You could do the same thing with Barry. Like, Barry is somehow changed, and a new actor is presented at the end so that they can continue with the Flash character, but it's not the controversial Ezra Miller anymore. So, I mean, there's a lot they could do with that. What they decide to do is anybody's guess, but the important thing is that DC's future is going to be changing, both in films and comics, and David is going to be playing ball with people for a while, but people shouldn't really get comfortable, especially the Twitter world, because he has customers in mind, not people that just want to high fives and retweet and share and make articles, because this is just all short-term profits. You guys, you are the minority. You are not the size of the general audience. You are not the real DC fans. You never have been. Warner Media appeased a lot of you guys. Not you, not my fans. I'm just saying Twitter in general. They appeased a lot of Twitter because they were scared because of cancel culture and stuff like that. David doesn't care about cancel culture. Cancel culture can't impact his profits. He won't pay attention to you. He doesn't care. He was brought in. He spent a lot of money. And he's going to overhaul everything. It might even go back to how the Nolan years were, where, you know, Batman was treated so well, and DC Comics was doing so well, and video games were doing so well for DC. We could be seeing, like, another, you know, revitalization like that. But only time will tell. It's going to be really interesting. What you need to know right now is that Discovery has their people on the board. They have more people coming in all the time to fill positions. They did not have an eye on DC Comics before, but they are not happy with the idea of the Justice League being killed off this month. Characters who are less popular than main characters, like less popular characters like Jace Fox and Jonathan Kent replacing massive icons like Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. That's not going to fly. That's not going to sell books. That's not going to make movies. That's not going to make video games. And that's not going to fit David's plan. So don't expect that to last very long. If you're lucky, those characters will stick around in maybe their own little books or digital releases. But I don't even think DC is going to keep producing as many books as they are anymore because they're bleeding money. And now that, you know, a lot of AT&T's billions has been solved for basically selling Warner Media to Discovery, you have to really consider that AT&T is also going to be stepping in to fix a lot of stuff because they're not going to allow companies to do whatever they want anymore because they don't want to be billions in debt anymore. So, yeah, it's going to be a revitalization of the DC brand. It's going to be really interesting. And this is just the beginning. What you're witnessing is the birth pains. The ideas are being formulated. I wouldn't be surprised if Henry Cavill is announced back as Superman either in May or the summer. But I don't think you're going to get a Man of Steel 2, and I don't think you're going to get a Snyderverse restore. What I believe, honestly, at my core, is that you are going to get Snyderverse actors back to do movies or make appearances in other movies, but you're not going to see Zack's vision restored unless the current CEO of Netflix, the big executive in charge over there, ends up coming over to Warner Discovery to lead essentially like the Kevin Feige position that David wants to fill. And then most likely you'll see Zack Snyder come back with this guy. And then this guy will bring Ben Affleck back and maybe, We'll get, you know, Ray Fisher back. You know, anything could happen. If I'm wrong, you know, they stay the woke route and they continue to lose money, but I don't think David would allow Discovery to do that. That he doesn't understand DC has all these icons and they're not utilizing them. They're not making any money. They could easily be milking these characters and make so much money to rival that of Marvel if they wanted to, and they don't. And that's something that he wants to do, whether it's streaming, movies, video game, TV, all that other stuff. You've already witnessed some of the things that have happened on the CW. Batwoman is done. It's not coming back. Unfortunately, Legend of Tomorrow is most likely canceled. Even though the show had a niched audience, it was not doing well in the ratings. It's possible The Flash might even be canceled and given a final shortened season to wrap things up. Thankfully, the Gotham Knights pilot, like that terrible show idea that is totally CW, Blueprint, and Warner Media all over the place, hopefully won't get anything more than a pilot, because that is not something Batman fans want. Batman fans want a true Bat family universe with Nightwing Dick Grayson, Red Hood Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne, you know, Bruce Wayne Batman. They don't want Tim Fox Batman in movies. They don't want Jean-Paul Valley Batman in movies. They don't want Dick Grayson Batman in movie. They want Bruce Wayne Batman and the Bat family. And they want all these other iconic characters that were never really given a shot. But anyway, now I want to hear from all you guys and gals. How do you feel about the whole Discovery thing? Does it come into a new light about like how the whole business thing is viewed by Discovery? And are you happy with how the Clubhouse thing is going to change? Or do you think that this is a bad idea and it really doesn't matter because woke stuff sells just as well as regular things? So anyway, people, thanks so much for listening. I will be talking about the Keaton Batsuit that was leaked, the new one for The Flash and the Batgirl movie soon, as well as probably what the future of Michael Keaton's Batman and all that stuff is going to be now. If anything, I really honestly believe they're going to fast track the Crisis on Infinite Earths movie with Ben Affleck at the head of that, and then either just completely reboot all of DC films or bring Snyderverse actors back and tell new stories. We'll see. But I really think that they should keep to their multiverse strategy because, I mean, it's an awesome time to be a Batman fan with both Keaton and Pattinson and Affleck around playing the character and potential of stories featuring more than just one centralized Batman character. And you could do the same thing with Superman. We could have Henry Cavill. We could have Val Zod, like Henry Cavill said. We can have like a Wonder Woman, Brazilian Wonder Woman. We could have multiple Green Lanterns on different Earths and realities. There's a lot of possibilities that they could do. And I think like doing a clean slate is not really a good idea when the multiverse is filled with so many stories that they could tell. But anyway, thanks so much for listening, people. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll be back with the Keaton Batsuit video when I'm able to. All right, guys. Take care. Keep it locked here for all things Batman in news, video games, TV, movies, and occasionally DC Comics when they get good. Later, Gothamites.